Hey guys, I wanted to check in with you about the notes on section 1.2. A lot of you were having issues with the 1.2 performance task and getting the error messages. So I want to hit a couple highlights. First, the vocabulary in lesson 1.2 is a lot of sports, and there's a lot of vocabulary. So as you're doing those questions, you may notice that a lot of the vocabulary in Apex is grouped by sport. So in the beginning, there's this kind of introduction to sports. A few slides later, you'll see this one is about health and things like vitamins and staying in shape. A little bit later, here's things about baseball. Here's terms about basketball. Here's some soccer and some words for different kinds of players, things like the goalposts and championship. The other big thing in this chapter is stem changing verbs. So I want to take a look at those. There's a couple of helpful videos that I've included. I really encourage you to watch those. What happens with these verbs is, so normally we always change the AR, ER, IR ending. We're still going to do that. So this ER verb is going to have the regular ER endings. That's O, ES, E, EMOS, and EN. So that's the endings do what the endings have always done. What's going to be weird is that in these verbs, the stem, which is the part that's not the ending, will have a spell change. That's why they're calling these stem changing verbs, because the stem is going to have a little spelling change. And it depends on the kind of verb and what the dictionary says about it being a stem changer. So these particular ones have a change where the O becomes a UE. So this O in poder is going to become a UE. So the yo form is not podo, it's puedo. The two form here you have is puedes. Él and ella puede. Ellos pueden. Now, present tense stem changers will not change in the nosotros form. So here, this nosotros form, it does not become a UE, it stays O, podemos. So you'll see it kind of forms, there's this boot shape around the verbs that stem change. Some teachers or some notes will call these boot verbs. And that's just a reminder that this form, and if they're showing it the vosotros form would too, do not have the spelling change, but all of the other forms, yo, tú, él, ella, usted, ellos, ellas, ustedes, will all have that spelling change. Okay. So again, there's a video that goes into a little bit more depth and gives you some more examples. On this next slide, it shows you some even more examples. The beginning of lesson 1.2 focuses on O to UE stem changers, and it also includes this verb jugar, which isn't an O to UE, but it does have a UE spelling change. So you notice this J-U-G becomes J-U-E-G, okay? It also gives you some examples of what O to UE stem changers look like with other endings. So contar is an AR verb. It's going to have the regular AR endings, and it's going to have this O to UE spelling change in all of the forms except nosotros and vosotros. Same thing with volver. It's an ER verb, so it's going to have the regular ER endings here in red. But this O is also going to stem change to UE in all of these forms where you see it in this greenish color. Dormir is an IR verb, so you've got the regular IR endings here in red. And we also have the O to UE stem changer there in that cyan color. Okay, so that's what you need to know about O to UE verbs. You'll see a lot of those on your performance task this week. And then at the end of the chapter, they also talk about E to IE stem changers. They work the same way as the other stem changers, okay? It's just that we're changing a different letter to a different combination of letters. Instead of O to UE, these verbs have an E that becomes an IE. Again, I've got a video here if you need me to go into more detail. And there's some good examples of how they work. The quick version is that ending, the AR, ER, IR, will do what it always does. So it's the regular AR endings here at the end of the word. But this E in the stem is going to become an IE in all of the forms except for nosotros, and if it's included, vosotros. So pensar is going to become yo pienso. tú piensas. Él or ella piensa. Ellos piensan. And the nosotros is not going to have the stem change. It's going to stay pensamos. So let's look at your performance task. So in the beginning, I have some questions dealing with sports. I tried to pick some sports that might be familiar to you and some players that might be familiar to us here in Georgia. Then you've got some O to UE stem changing verbs. So some things you need to watch out for. Make sure you're using the right endings because you'll see AR, ER, and IR verbs. Make sure you're stem changing. These are going to change O to UE. So for example, the verb poder is an ER verb. That O is going to change to UE. So your answer on the line should be puedo. P-U-E-D-O, just that one word. Okay. If you don't have that right, it's going to tell you to check your spelling, your accent, your lowercase. It has to be all lowercase. So if your phone is capitalizing the first letter, you got to go back and make it lowercase. If you stuck an accent in there, most these shouldn't use any accents, so you don't need it. If you forgot to stem change, then you need to. And if it's the nosotros form, then you need to not stem change. So if it's telling you that you don't have the answer right, that's because you don't have the answer right. And it's not going to accept it until you get it right. I know that's frustrating, but it's because I want you to get it right. So again, you're just going to put that one word verb form, and you're going to make sure you have it spelled correct. If you're just really stuck on one, you can't figure out what you're doing wrong, send me a screenshot or tell me what the question asks and what your answer is, and I'll try to give you some feedback on how to get it right. In the ones where you're answering in Spanish, you'll notice that I've used a stem changer in the question, ¿duermes mucho? So I'm looking for you to recycle the language of the question in your answer. So if the question says, do you sleep a lot? Then your answer is going to be, yes, I sleep a lot. Or no, I don't sleep a lot, but in Spanish. And you're going to want to use the verb from the question. So if the question verb says, do you sleep? You're going to use the yo form to say, I sleep. Got that? Yo form, same verb, recycle it in your answer. The next section, these verbs are all going to change E to IE. You're going to see AR, ER, and IR verbs. So again, watch your endings. Make sure you're changing that E in the stem to an IE. Watch out for the nosotros form because you're not going to make the spelling change in the nosotros form. Lastly, if you're just really stuck and you need some assistance, again, send me a screenshot or a message that lets me know what the question is asking you and what answer you're trying so that I can give you some specific feedback on how to make it right. Again, with these short answer questions at the end, I'm looking for you to recycle the language of the question in your answer. So the second to last one here says, do you think in English? Piensas is a stem changing verb, so you're going to use the yo form in your answer. Yes, I think in English. Or no, I think in Urdu or Vietnamese or whatever language you think in. So I hope that helps. We'll check in again with you soon, and I appreciate your patience with me being out at the end of last week.